On this edition of Freedom Journal Iraq, getting business booming in Husseiniya and a patriotic pararescueman mission. Don't miss these stories and more on today's FJI. Hello, I'm Air Force Sergeant Christy Byers. Welcome to this edition of Freedom Journal Iraq. Arizona Senator John McCain arrived in Iraq Sunday, his 8th visit to the country since the U.S.-led invasion 5 years ago. Senator McCain, accompanied by Senator Lindsey Graham from South Carolina, visited with Commander of Multinational Division North, Major General Mark Hertling, in Mosul. McCain's visit is part of a fact-finding trip by the Senate Armed Services Committee. He also met with American and Iraqi military leaders for a briefing on current operations in northern Iraq and got a first-hand account of the situation in Mosul. His itinerary includes visits with other top Iraqi and U.S. leaders as well as service members. Today marks the 35th anniversary of Senator McCain's release from the Hanoi Hilton, where he was held as a prisoner of war for more than 5 years. His week-long trip will also include stops in Israel, Jordan, Britain, and France. Another distinguished visitor set foot in the sandbox today, Vice President Dick Cheney. His surprise visit to Iraq is just one stop on his Middle East agenda, which will include stops in Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Israel, and the West Bank. We'll have more on the Vice President's trip tomorrow. This week's Multinational Force Iraq press conference reflected on the challenges and progress made over the past year. Petty Officer Elijah Lenar reports on coalition and Iraqi efforts to continue to disrupt al-Qaeda networks.
This week marks the 5-year anniversary of the war in Iraq. As Multinational Forces Iraq continues to work toward a more stable and independent country, much of the progress can be seen in the response of the Iraqi people.
There is great hope when you consider that the people of Iraq have largely rejected violence, are looking for a positive way forward, and are participating and partnering to make that happen, both in a political way, at the local and regional and the national level of political governance, but also in a real personal way, as sons of Iraq, as individuals who are making a choice about telling and giving a tip that will lead to the capture of an individual or a weapons cache. Those are all very, very positive trends, and so I'm very hopeful.
Al-Qaeda in Iraq remains the most significant threat to Iraq's future. Consequently, Admiral Smith said, coalition and Iraqi security forces will continue to focus operations on targeting the leaders of AQI and pursue their networks. Petty Officer Elijah Lenar, Baghdad.
Foreign terrorists are responsible for the most destructive and profane attacks on innocent men, women, and children in Iraq. With help from coalition forces, Iraqis are rejecting such violence and focusing on the future. This shift in mindset can be seen in the streets of Husseiniya, where the coalition is offering micro-grants to local business owners, boosting the economy. Specialist Michael Cox explains.
Soldiers in 168 Armor Battalion, 3rd Brigade Combat Team, 4th Infantry Division, visited local shop owners in the Husseiniya neighborhood of Baghdad to offer micro-grants to local shop owners.
We assess the needs of small businesses, something small, under $2,500, generally under $400, that we can give to a business and make their business better, improve their business and productivity.
The soldiers go from shop to shop talking to local merchants about the grants and how they can benefit from them.
In essence, you're giving them a grant that would make business better so they're more economically stable.
Soldiers pull security outside the shops as the micro-grants are being discussed inside. The needs of what shop owners want vary from very little to a lot.
Generally, they do not want something that costs $2,500. They either want something that costs between $200 and $400, or they want something that costs $20,000.
Micro-grants are a way the soldiers in 168 Armor plan to build the economic structure in the neighborhood of Husseiniya during their deployment to Iraq. Specialist Michael Cox, 3rd Brigade Combat Team, Multinational Division, Baghdad, Public Affairs, Husseiniya, Iraq.
Coming up, Air Force pararescuemen honor the fallen.
Here's your raid report. Coalition forces discovered a large weapons cache on the roof of a home in Bakuba consisting of rocket-propelled grenade launchers. The rooftop is connected to another home where soldiers found more munitions. During an operation in Baghdad, coalition forces captured an alleged associate of an al-Qaeda in Iraq senior leader responsible for terrorist propaganda operations. In Mosul, coalition forces detained 2 suspected terrorists while targeting an alleged associate of several leaders involved in the city's AQI network. And finally, coalition forces captured 2 alleged associates of vehicle-borne improvised explosive device cells in Baghdad. Reports indicate the suspects are connected with various AQI leaders throughout the capital. And that's your raid report. I'm Petty Officer Frank Andrews. Here are the latest headlines about Operation Iraqi Freedom. Iraqi police said they have arrested dozens of Jaish al-Mahdi or JAM members as violence continues in Al-Quds. The clashes between Iraqi security forces and JAM militiamen has entered its 2nd week. Attendees of the Iraqi Muslim Scholars wrapped up talks this week and called for increased dialogue across sects and ethnicities in order to halt sectarian violence. Iraqis are having to find their own ways to obtain basic services. They increasingly rely on militias and other armed groups to fill the services void. The Boston Globe reports many Iraqis welcome the security brought by the presence of U.S. forces, but remain deeply skeptical about the future. And those are your headlines from around the region. I'm Petty Officer Chad Britz.
Back. Devil dogs in Al-Assad, also known as the Diamondbacks, patrol the perimeter, ready to strike. Marine Staff Sergeant Ryan O'Hare takes us to the combat zone, where the Diamondbacks are building bonds in the midst of war.
For the Diamondbacks of 2nd Platoon Bravo Company, Marine Wing Support Squadron 372, slithering their way through the rugged Iraq terrain during mounted combat patrols outside Al-Assad is all in a day's work.
Before each patrol, vehicles are properly maintained as well as loaded with ammunition, food, and emergency supplies. Once outside the perimeter, the Diamondbacks' mission is to show a presence of force in the area as well as interact with farmers to gather intelligence while also investigating any suspicious activity. The Marines also help the local families any way they can.
We hand out water and food, anything like blankets, beanies, gloves to help them out in the winter months, and anything to make their lives a little bit easier.
Although the mounted combat patrols pass through these areas numerous times, vehicles as well as tents must be inspected to ensure the safety of everyone.
We call it a rock star status because the people are there to greet them. Once they see us coming, they'll come out, let us know what's been going on, if anything. Also let us know if any of the children are sick, and make sure that if they did see anything, they point them out, the description and so forth.
The Diamondbacks will soon return to Camp Pendleton and be replaced by Marine Wing Support Squadron 274. For 3rd Marine Air Wing Forward, I'm Staff Sergeant Ryan O'Hare.
The Devil Dogs are just one force fighting for freedom in Iraq. Air Force pararescuemen are another. Their creed, that may live. But sometimes fate intervenes, and the PJs are called upon to instead bring home others that make the ultimate sacrifice. Recently, an Air Force Combat Search and Rescue team received the fateful call that an Iraqi Air Force helicopter had gone missing. On board, 7 Iraqis and 1 American airman. Air Force Sergeant Lee Bellinger shows us how a team went. No one got left behind and honored the fallen.
The Air Force Combat Search and Rescue team, flying out of Balad Air Base, soon came upon the wreckage of the Iraqi Air Force Mi-17 helicopter.
Textbook execution. We were able to get in there and do exactly what we were supposed to do. Did it quickly, did it efficiently, and anybody behind.
On board the Pavehawk that day, an American flag.
We're looking to give it to the loved ones of the fallen, kind of be a part of the mission, something that they'll be able to take and cherish forever, and hopefully give them some closure.
And it also provides for the team a sense of closure.
Take pride in the fact that we can do it well, but we don't like having to do it, and we're thankful that we don't do it very often.
But when that call does come, Air Force CSAR will be there. Air Force Sergeant Lee Bellinger, Balad Air Base, Iraq.
The flag shown in this story was hand-delivered to the airman's family. Next time on Freedom Journal Iraq, Navy Customs keeps the homeland safe. That does it for this edition of Freedom Journal Iraq. Check out mnf-iraq.com for all the latest OIF information. From all of us here at AFN and Freedom Journal Iraq, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.